You never expect to come home early and find your wife making waves, unless you're the pool boy. I'm not. I own the damn house. My name is Jake Thompson, and I run Thompson's Custom Auto Shop on the south side of town. It's not glamorous work, but it pays well enough to afford the kind of life that looks perfect from the outside. A 4-bedroom house in Maple Heights, the kind of neighborhood where the lawns are always green and the secrets are always hidden behind perfectly painted fences. Our house was always full of people. My wife's friends, her girlfriends, and even the husbands of those girlfriends were constantly hanging out at our place. We had a nice home, the kind of home that made parties easy. A jacuzzi, a big pool, a huge backyard that could fit dozens of people without anyone feeling crowded. So most weekends, everyone came to us. It looked like a perfect life from the outside. But to keep that life running, I worked late. Weekdays, I was rarely home before 1 in the morning. I would walk in exhausted, drop my keys, and go straight to bed while the house still smelled like someone else's perfume and loud laughter from earlier. My wife Lisa was 38, blonde, beautiful, in that carefully maintained suburban way. She co-owned an interior design firm called Elegant Spaces with her business partner Amanda. Lisa had always been social, the type who needed people around her constantly. When we first married 12 years ago, I thought it was charming. Now, I was starting to think it was something else entirely. Then the weekend would come, and the cycle would repeat. At first, I thought it was normal. Friends gather, people relax, nothing strange. But over time, I started noticing one detail that kept showing up no matter how much I tried to ignore it. At these parties, my wife was always very close with the husband of one of her friends. His name was Brad Mitchell, and he was married to Lisa's best friend since college, Rebecca. Brad was 36, a former college football player who now worked in sales for some tech company, the kind of guy who still wore his Letterman jacket to high school reunions and talked about his glory days like they happened yesterday. Not just friendly, not just talking. It was the way they leaned in, the way they touched each other's arms like it was automatic, the way they stayed side by side even when the group moved around. It looked like a couple trying to pretend they weren't a couple. I asked my wife about it one Tuesday morning over coffee. I told her it didn't look like simple friendship. She smiled like I was being dramatic and said I had nothing to worry about. "Jake, honey, you're being paranoid," she said, not even looking up from her phone. "Brad and I are old friends. We dated briefly in college before I met you, but it never worked out. We stayed close because of history, but we both moved on. I found you, and he found Rebecca. That's the whole story." But it was not the whole story. She was hiding the truth. She was in love with him, and she was getting bolder every week, and the truth finally came out on a night I came home early. My wife had been telling me for weeks that I worked too much, that I was never home, that I was choosing work over her. The irony wasn't lost on me. She complained I wasn't around while she was apparently entertaining other men in my absence. "You're never here anymore, Jake," she'd said the previous Sunday, while Brad and Rebecca were over for their usual weekend visit. "Sometimes I feel like I'm married to a ghost." Brad had nodded sympathetically, putting his hand on her shoulder. "Lisa deserves better than that, man. A woman like her needs attention." The comment had stuck with me all week, not because it made me feel guilty, but because of how comfortable he was making it, like he was already filling that role. So on Friday night, I decided to surprise her. I finished early, told my assistant Mike to lock up the shop, and drove home without calling ahead. It was only 9:30, early for me, but late enough that I figured Lisa would be home alone, maybe watching one of her reality shows. I pulled into our driveway and noticed Rebecca's car wasn't there, but Brad's BMW was parked on the street. That was odd. Why would Brad be at our house without his wife on a Friday night? I walked in quietly through the front door, not wanting to startle Lisa if she was asleep. The house was dimly lit, but I could hear voices and splashing coming from the backyard. Through the kitchen window, I could see the jacuzzi lights were on. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. I moved closer to the sliding glass door that led to our deck, staying in the shadows. What I saw made my blood freeze. My wife and Brad were in our jacuzzi, kissing like they owned the world. In my house, in the life I was paying for. Lisa's bikini top was floating nearby, and Brad's hands were places they had no business being. "God, I've missed this," I heard Lisa moan as they broke apart. "Rebecca's visiting her sister this weekend. We have all night." "What about Jake?" Brad asked, though he didn't seem particularly concerned as he pulled her closer. "He won't be home until after midnight. He never is." Lisa laughed, a sound I'd once found beautiful, but now made me sick. Sometimes I think he cares more about those stupid cars than he does about me. "His loss is my gain," Brad replied, kissing her neck. You deserve someone who appreciates what he has." For a second, I just stood there, frozen. Then something in me went completely calm. I didn't storm in. I didn't shout. I didn't let them know I was there. I stepped back, closed the door quietly, and took out my phone. I had two choices. I could confront them right now and have a screaming match that would accomplish nothing, or I could be smart about this. I chose smart. I scrolled through my contacts until I found Rebecca's number. She and Lisa had been best friends since college, roommates, each other's maid of honor. Rebecca had always been kind to me, and she deserved to know what her husband was doing behind her back. When she answered, I kept my voice steady. "Rebecca, it's Jake. I need you to come over to my house right now. There's something I have to show you." "Jake, it's almost 10 o'clock. Is everything okay? Is Lisa hurt?" "Lisa's fine, but you need to see this. Trust me." She sounded confused, even annoyed. "Can't this wait until tomorrow? I'm 2 hours away at my sister's place." "No, it can't wait. And I think you'll want to cut your visit short when you see what I'm about to show you." There was a long pause. "Jake, you're scaring me. What's going on?" Just come home, Rebecca. Drive straight to my house. I'll be waiting." I hung up before she could ask more questions. Then I went to my home office, opened my laptop, and did something I never thought I'd have to do. I started researching divorce lawyers. Rebecca made good time. It was just after midnight when I saw her headlights pull into our driveway. I'd spent the last 2 hours listening to my wife and her lover in my backyard, documenting everything with my phone's camera and voice recorder. They'd moved from the jacuzzi to the pool deck, then back to the jacuzzi, acting like teenagers who'd discovered sex for the first time. I met Rebecca at the front door before she could ring the bell. She looked worried and confused, still wearing the casual clothes she'd probably thrown on for the drive. "Jake, what's this about? You sounded so strange on the phone." Rebecca was 37, a natural brunette with kind eyes and a gentle personality that made her the opposite of her husband. She worked as a nurse at the local hospital and had always struck me as genuinely caring. She deserved better than Brad, and she definitely deserved better than this. "I'm sorry to drag you away from your sisters, but you needed to see this in person," I said, keeping my voice low. "Before I show you anything, I want you to know that I'm not the messenger by choice. I just happened to come home early tonight." Her face grew pale. "Jake, you're really scaring me now. Where's Lisa?" "She's here. So is Brad." "Brad? But he said he was going to watch the game with his buddies tonight. He said—" She stopped, and I could see understanding starting to dawn in her eyes. I led her through the house toward the sliding glass door. The voices from outside were quieter now, but still audible. I could hear Lisa giggling about something Brad had whispered in her ear. "Rebecca," I said, putting my hand on her shoulder, "I want you to know that I had no idea this was going on. I'm as shocked as you're about to be." I opened the sliding door just enough for her to see through. The jacuzzi lights illuminated everything clearly. Brad and Lisa were wrapped around each other, completely naked now, completely oblivious to the world outside their bubble of betrayal. Rebecca's intake of breath was sharp enough to cut glass. She stood there for maybe 10 seconds, processing what she was seeing. Her husband of 8 years with her best friend since college in another man's backyard, acting like this was normal. Then she exploded. "Brad, what the hell are you doing?" She shoved past me and stormed toward the jacuzzi. The effect was immediate and devastating. Lisa and Brad jerked apart like they'd been electrocuted. Lisa screamed and tried to cover herself. Brad's face went from passion to panic in less than a second. "Rebecca, I can explain." Brad started, but his wife was already at the edge of the jacuzzi. "Explain? Explain what? How you're screwing my best friend in another man's backyard while I'm visiting my sick sister?" Lisa was scrambling for her bikini, her face red with embarrassment and fear. "Rebecca, please, let us explain. This isn't what it looks like." "It looks like my husband is cheating on me with my best friend." Rebecca's voice was getting higher, more hysterical. "What else could it possibly look like?" I stepped onto the deck, but stayed back, letting the scene play out. This wasn't my show anymore. I was just the guy who'd opened the curtain. Brad climbed out of the jacuzzi, not bothering to cover himself. Even in crisis, he had that arrogant athlete swagger. "Look, Rebecca, this has been going on for a while. Lisa and I have feelings for each other. Real feelings. We didn't plan for this to happen." "A while? How long is a while?" Rebecca was shaking now, her hands clenched into fists. Lisa had managed to get her bikini back on and was trying to approach her friend. "Becca, please, you have to understand. Jake is never here. He doesn't pay attention to me anymore. Brad makes me feel alive again." That's when I finally spoke up. "So this is my fault. I work 60 hours a week to pay for this house, this pool, this life, and somehow that makes me the villain?" All three of them turned to look at me, as if they'd forgotten I existed, which I was starting to realize they probably had. "Jake, I didn't mean it like that," Lisa said, but her voice lacked conviction. "No, I think you meant it exactly like that." I walked closer, my voice getting colder with each step. "I work late so you can have your parties, your designer clothes, your perfect suburban life. And while I'm busting my ass to maintain all of this, you're out here playing house with your friend's husband." Brad stepped forward, apparently deciding to play the tough guy. "Maybe if you paid more attention to your wife's needs, she wouldn't have to look elsewhere." I laughed, a sound that surprised even me with its bitterness. "Her needs? What about my needs? What about Rebecca's needs? What about the need for basic honesty in a marriage?" Rebecca was crying now, ugly sobs that shook her whole body. 8 years, Brad. 8 years of marriage, and this is how you repay me? With my best friend? "Rebecca, our marriage has been dead for years. You know it, I know it. Lisa and I just found something real." "Real?" I couldn't help myself. "You mean like real adultery? Real betrayal? Real cowardice?" Brad's face darkened. "Watch it, Jake. You don't want to push me." "Or what? You'll steal my wife? Already did that. You'll destroy my marriage? Way ahead of you. You'll disrespect me in my own home? Hat trick, buddy." The situation was spiraling, and I could see it was about to get physical. Brad was the type who solved problems with his fists, and his embarrassment was turning into anger. But before he could make a move, Rebecca surprised us all. She picked up Lisa's wine glass from the edge of the jacuzzi and threw the contents in her husband's face. "We're done, Brad. We are completely done. I want you out of our house tonight." "Becca, wait! Don't you dare call me that. Don't you ever call me that again." She turned to Lisa, her former best friend. "And you. 12 years of friendship. 12 years of secrets and support and being there for each other. For this?" Lisa was crying now too, but they were selfish tears. The tears of someone who'd been caught, not someone who was truly sorry. "You don't understand the connection Brad and I have. It's deeper than just physical." "Connection?" Rebecca laughed bitterly. "You mean the connection where you both lie to the people who love you, where you sneak around behind our backs? That kind of connection?" I realized I was witnessing the destruction of not just my marriage, but an entire social circle. Rebecca and Lisa had been the center of our friend group. Their friendship had been the foundation that everything else was built on, and now it was crumbling in real time. "I think everyone should leave," I said finally. "Now." The next morning, I woke up alone in my house for the first time in 12 years. Lisa had left with Brad the night before, though not before a final screaming match in our driveway that probably woke half the neighborhood. She'd thrown some clothes in a bag and announced she was staying at Amanda's place until we could work things out. I'd told her there was nothing to work out. I was filing for divorce. Rebecca had driven straight to her house to pack Brad's belongings. She'd called me around 3 a.m. to let me know she'd thrown everything on the front lawn and changed the locks. Her voice was hoarse from crying, but there was steel in it too. "Jake, I'm so sorry you had to be the one to tell me. I should have seen the signs." "What signs?" I'd asked, genuinely curious. "The way he always wanted to come to your parties. The way he'd dress up extra nice when he knew Lisa would be there. The way he'd find excuses to text her during the week. I thought I was being paranoid." "You weren't paranoid. You were being trusting. There's a difference." "What are you going to do now?" "Honestly, I have no idea. But I know what I'm not going to do. I'm not going to pretend this didn't happen, and I'm not going to let them make me the villain in their story." That conversation had been 12 hours ago. Now it was Saturday afternoon, and I was sitting in my kitchen drinking coffee and staring at a list of divorce attorneys I'd printed out. My phone had been ringing all morning, but I wasn't answering. Word travels fast in suburbs, especially when it involves naked people and public screaming matches. The doorbell rang at 2 o'clock. I looked through the peephole and saw my neighbor from across the street, Martha Henderson. Martha was 65, retired, and the unofficial neighborhood gossip coordinator. If she was here, it meant the story had already spread. I opened the door. "Hi, Martha." "Jake, honey, I heard what happened. Are you okay?" "I'm fine, Martha. Thanks for asking." "That poor Rebecca. I saw her throwing Brad's things on the lawn last night. What a mess." She paused, clearly fishing for more details. "And Lisa? How is she handling all this?" "Lisa made her choice. She'll have to live with the consequences." Martha nodded sympathetically, but I could see the curiosity burning in her eyes. "Well, if you need anything, a home-cooked meal, someone to talk to, you just let me know." "I appreciate that." After she left, I realized that this was just the beginning. Our social circle was about to implode, and everyone would want to pick sides. The problem was, most of our friends were really Lisa's friends. The wives from her book club, the couples from her work events, the people who came to our parties because Lisa was the social coordinator. I was about to find out who my real friends were. The answer came sooner than expected. Around 4 o'clock, my phone started buzzing with text messages from people in our social circle. The first few were supportive. Mike here. Heard what happened. You okay, man? Jake, this is terrible. Sarah and I are here if you need anything. Tom. But then the messages started changing. Jake, maybe you should consider counseling. Lisa is really upset. Jennifer. This seems like something that could be worked out if everyone just calmed down. Steve. And finally, the one that really got to me. Jake, I think you're overreacting. Marriages go through rough patches. You should forgive Lisa and move on. Amanda. Lisa's business partner and supposedly one of our closest friends. The woman who had been at our wedding, who had been to every birthday party and holiday dinner for the past 5 years. And she thought I was overreacting to my wife's affair. I realized that I was about to lose more than just my marriage. I was about to lose my entire social life, because these people were going to choose Lisa. She was more fun, more social, more entertaining. I was just the guy who worked late and paid for the parties. But I wasn't going to go down quietly. Monday morning, I called the first lawyer on my list. Her name was Patricia Walsh, and she had a reputation for being thorough and aggressive. Her office was downtown in one of those glass buildings that screamed expensive legal advice. Mr. Thompson, I've reviewed the information you gave me over the phone. This seems like a fairly straightforward case of adultery. Do you have evidence? I pulled out my phone and showed her the photos and video I'd taken Friday night. Her eyebrows raised slightly. This is very clear evidence. Your wife will have a difficult time disputing this. Now let's talk about assets. For the next hour, we went through everything Lisa and I owned together. The house, the cars, the business accounts, the retirement funds. It was depressing how easily 12 years of marriage could be reduced to a spreadsheet. The good news is that your wife's affair works in your favor. The bad news is that she'll likely try to claim she deserves support because she's been out of the workforce building her business. Her business that she runs with the woman who thinks I should just forgive and forget? Ah, yes, Amanda Peters. I've dealt with her before in other cases. She's going to be a problem. She'll likely testify on your wife's behalf, claim that you were an absent husband who drove Lisa to cheat. I left the lawyer's office with a clear plan and a retainer fee that made my eyes water. But it was worth it. I wasn't going to let Lisa and her friends rewrite history to make me the villain. That afternoon, I went back to work at the shop. It felt good to focus on something concrete, something I could fix with my hands. I was working on a transmission rebuild when my assistant Mike came over. Boss, you've got visitors. I looked up to see Amanda and 2 other women from Lisa's social circle, Jennifer Walsh and Sarah Martinez. They looked like they were on a mission. Jake, we need to talk, Amanda said without preamble. I wiped my hands on a rag and walked over to them. What can I do for you, ladies? You can stop this ridiculous divorce nonsense, Jennifer said. Lisa made a mistake, but breaking up 2 marriages over it is extreme. 2 marriages? I didn't break up Brad and Rebecca's marriage. Brad did that when he decided to cheat with my wife. You know what I mean, Sarah chimed in. You could have handled this privately. Instead, you humiliated Lisa and Brad in front of Rebecca. Now everyone's talking about it. I stared at them for a moment, trying to process the sheer audacity of what they were saying. Let me get this straight. You're upset with me because I caught my wife cheating and told the other betrayed spouse about it? You could have talked to Lisa first, Amanda said. Given her a chance to end it quietly. Instead, you created this whole dramatic scene. I created a dramatic scene? I came home early from work and found my wife naked in our jacuzzi with another man. What exactly was I supposed to do? Make them some sandwiches? Don't be sarcastic, Jake. This is serious. You're damn right it's serious. My wife committed adultery in my home with my friend's husband. That's about as serious as it gets. Jennifer stepped forward, trying to look sympathetic. Jake, we all know you work a lot. Maybe too much. Lisa felt neglected. She made a mistake, but it's not entirely her fault. And there it was, the narrative they'd constructed to make this my fault. I was the workaholic husband who drove his poor wife into another man's arms. So let me understand your logic, I said, my voice getting colder. Because I work long hours to maintain the lifestyle that allows Lisa to throw parties and run her little design business, I'm responsible for her decision to cheat? That's not what we're saying, Sarah started. That's exactly what you're saying. You're saying that my wife's adultery is somehow justified because I'm not home enough. Well, here's a newsflash. I'm not home because I'm working to pay for the home she was cheating in. Amanda's face was getting red. You're being unreasonable, Jake. Marriage is about forgiveness. Marriage is about trust, Amanda, and respect, and honesty. All things your friend threw away when she decided to sleep with Brad. So you're just going to throw away 12 years over one mistake? One mistake? I laughed bitterly. This wasn't a mistake. A mistake is forgetting to pick up milk on the way home. This was a choice. Multiple choices over multiple occasions to betray her marriage vows. The three women exchanged glances. I could see they'd expected me to be more reasonable, more willing to compromise. They'd probably promised Lisa they could talk sense into me. Fine, Jennifer said. If you won't listen to reason, then you should know that we're all going to support Lisa through this. She's going to need her friends. Good for you. I hope you're all very happy together. And we think you should know, Sarah added, that people are already talking about how you handled this, about what kind of man you really are. What kind of man am I, Sarah? The kind who destroys people's lives over a momentary lapse in judgment. I set down my wrench and walked closer to them. All three women took a step back. No, Sarah. I'm the kind of man who tells the truth when he discovers it. I'm the kind of man who doesn't cover up for cheaters and liars. I'm the kind of man who thinks that when you make adult decisions, you should face adult consequences. This conversation is over, Amanda said, but don't expect any support from us during this divorce. We're Team Lisa all the way. Team Lisa? I couldn't help but smile. Is that what we're calling it? Well, then I guess I'm Team Truth, and Team Self-Respect, and Team Not Being a Doormat. They left without another word, but their message was clear. The battle lines had been drawn, and I was outnumbered, but I wasn't outgunned. The social warfare began in earnest the next week. It started subtly. Invitations to parties that didn't come, group text messages that I was mysteriously left off of, casual encounters at the grocery store where people I'd known for years suddenly found reasons to avoid eye contact. Lisa's friends had closed ranks around her, and their narrative was simple. Jake Thompson was a cold, unforgiving workaholic who had destroyed 2 marriages over a harmless affair. Lisa was the victim of a loveless marriage, and Brad was just a man who had found comfort in the arms of a neglected woman. The story might have been bullshit, but it was compelling bullshit, and it was spreading. Rebecca called me on Thursday night, sounding exhausted. Jake, are you hearing the things people are saying? Some of them. What are you hearing? That we're both overreacting. That Brad and Lisa were just having a midlife crisis, and we should have been more understanding. Jennifer Walsh actually told me that I should consider taking Brad back because men sometimes stray when they are not getting enough attention at home. Jesus, what did you tell her? I told her that if she thought cheating was acceptable, maybe she should examine her own marriage more closely. She didn't like that very much. I could hear Rebecca starting to cry again. Jake, I feel so alone. All of our friends are taking their side. Even my sister thinks I should try to work things out with Brad. Your sister who wasn't here to see what we saw? She says I'm being too emotional, that I should think about this logically, that 8 years of marriage is worth more than one mistake. Rebecca, listen to me. You saw what I saw. That wasn't a mistake. That was a choice. And it wasn't their first choice. It was just the first time they got caught. I know that. But everyone else is making me feel crazy. You're not crazy. You're hurt and angry, and you have every right to be both of those things. After I hung up with Rebecca, I realized that this was bigger than just my divorce. Lisa and her friends were conducting a systematic campaign to rewrite history, and they were winning. They had the advantage of numbers and social connections, and they were using both effectively. But they'd made one crucial mistake. They'd assumed I would just quietly accept their narrative and slink away with my tail between my legs. They didn't know me very well. Friday night, I decided to make my first countermove. There was a monthly neighborhood barbecue at the community center, and I knew Lisa would be there with her support team. I also knew that most of the neighborhood would be there, including people who had only heard one side of the story. I showed up at 7 o'clock, wearing my best shirt and carrying a bottle of expensive wine. The reaction was immediate and uncomfortable. Conversation stopped when I walked in. People stared. Lisa, who was holding court near the buffet table with Amanda and her crew, went pale when she saw me. I walked straight to the host, Bob Martinez, and handed him the wine. Thanks for organizing this, Bob. Great turnout. Bob looked uncomfortable, but accepted the wine. Jake, good to see you. How are you holding up? I'm doing well, thanks. Looking forward to moving on with my life? I could feel eyes on me from across the room. Lisa was whispering furiously to Amanda, probably wondering what I was doing there. I made my way around the room, greeting people I'd known for years, acting completely normal. Some people were friendly, Others were awkward, but I maintained the same calm, pleasant demeanor with everyone. Then I made my way to the buffet table, where Lisa and her friends were clustered. "Hi, Lisa. Amanda, Jennifer, Sarah." I nodded to each of them politely. Lisa looked like she wanted to run. "Jake, what are you doing here?" "Same thing as everyone else, enjoying a neighborhood barbecue." "Don't you think this is a little awkward?" Amanda asked. "Why would it be awkward? We're all adults here." I loaded my plate with food, taking my time, forcing them to either continue their conversation with me standing right there or move away. They chose to move away, but not before I heard Amanda whisper to Lisa, "He's trying to make us look bad." "Actually, Amanda," I thought, "you're doing that all by yourselves." I sat at a table, and within minutes, neighbors approached to hear my side. I stayed calm, answered with facts, and refused to trash Lisa or Brad, which only made Lisa look more guilty. Then Brad walked in. The room went silent, and I politely cornered him with a few sharp lines until he blurted out that Lisa wouldn't have looked elsewhere if I'd been better. I turned that back on him in front of everyone, and he fled while Lisa chased after him. 2 weeks later, Lisa came to pack her things, tried tears and counseling, then flipped to blaming me again, and that was the moment I knew the divorce was final. 6 months later, I signed the papers, their affair collapsed, and even the neighbors who judged me started admitting I was right.